Welcome to the Producers Happy Hour with your hosts, Sister Christian and Lawrence Lewis.
We are two producers chatting over drinks about what it means
and what it takes to be a good producer.
So grab your budget,
grab a call sheet,
grab a drink.
You're gonna need it.
And let's get to it.
Because making
is hard.
And I am so happy to be talking with you again because it's only Tuesday, but it has been a week.
Oh, may I? Okay, two things about that already. One is this year, I know that you expressed to me last week or the week before that, wow, this year's going by kind of fast. I'm like, it's been 3 years already and we're only March. That's what it's like for me.
It's unreal.
I mean, it's like full steam ahead out there. Katie bar the doors, no holds barred, wide open. Everybody needs to make their shit right now.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's full on. But we're here, we're back, our schedule's irregular, but we're doing our best because we're busy producers, but we're continuing this Meet the Crew series, and it takes us back to the original concept of the show before all this crazy COVID stuff.
Exactly. It just means that we're talking to talented crew members and craftspeople we work with to find out their definition of a good producer, because it's subjective, right? Plus, we want to know how a producer and production team could best support them so they can be the best they can be at their own jobs.
And who else needs more support than a director on set, right? The most important person on the set. And today we have none other than Jordan Brady to chat with us about it. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're very excited.
Yes, and very importantly, what's everyone drinking?
Jordan?
I am. It's late in the afternoon, and normally I wouldn't drink, so this is a special occasion to be on the Producers Happy Hour podcast. So I am sipping just a little bit of Clase Azul Reposado. It's a top-shelf tequila that many of you gaze at in that white ceramic bottle that's tall, and it's got a silver bell on top.
Oh, yeah.
Each bottle painted by hand in Mexico.
Oh, my gosh. That is lovely. Christian, what about you?
Yes. I remember staying at an Airbnb once in Hollywood that had like 18 of them empty along the wall. And I was like, wow, I wish I was here whenever that was happening. Well, today I'm having, you know how I like my pre-mixed cocktails. So I'm having something called On the Rocks. It is a premium cocktail margarita made with Hornitos. And I'm taking it straight from the bottle because that's the kind of day that I'm having.
Wow.
Lawrence?
Yes. Well, I'm drinking a lovely Chardonnay, which is a Chardonnay
Sounds made
white
up.
wine. No, this is real. Chardonnay white wine from Sardinia. So it's a Chardonnay, and it is delicious. So there you go.
It just looks refreshing.
It does,
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. All right, we're going to dive in, but just first a reminder to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because it helps other people find our show. And trust me, we all need to stick together these days.
And we definitely want to hear from you. So send us an email at producershappyhour@gmail.com. Send us your question, comments, ideas for show topics, love us, hate us, whatever. Just send it along. We'll
Send
read
it along.
Yeah.
All right. We're so excited to have Jordan on as a guest. Jordan Brady is a 100% self-taught filmmaker. He's directed 4 narrative feature films, 3 full documentaries, and over 1,200 national and regional commercials, as well as Maria Bamford's acclaimed Netflix comedy special. And he's also won buckets of advertising awards, including multiple Clios and ADDYs and Promax Awards and AICP Awards, and so much more.
And don't worry, folks, in his spare time, Mr. Brady hosts a popular weekly filmmaking podcast, Respect the Process. And he also teaches the Commercial Directing Bootcamp.
And we're going to definitely talk about that because I'm excited about that. Jordan, how are you? And thanks for joining us today.
Oh, I am super-de-duper. Thanks for having me, and what a great intro.
Yes, well,
it's a research.
That's your fault. We're just going to start off with some softball questions. How long have you been directing? How long have you been doing this?
I have been directing commercials since 1998.
Ooh, the year I started too.
I was setting out to raise money for a feature film that I had written that I was determined to direct. And back in the late 90s, off the heat of Tarantino and Soderbergh, the people wanted to make these indie films, and production companies had an indie film arm. So I went to these commercial production companies and hit them up for money. And one of them, Crash Films, I think they crashed and burned long ago, said, we're not going to put money in your movie, but why don't you direct this commercial? And I said, I love that. I had been doing promos and such in TV. So that was my first official commercial, and then went on to make the movie, and I've made thousands of commercials since.
Thousands.
Amazing.
Well, can we dive let's dive a
You
little
can ask
bit
me
deeper.
anything.
Perfect. So here we go. So did you just begin one day as a director, or did you start, did you film, where was the beginning? Were you PA?
Sadly, I never got to work on the crew.
Sadly.
Really? You never have?
I never have. I mean, I've helped people.
Sure.
That in that regard. No, I was a stand-up comedian in the 80s and 90s, and on and off. I've been in and out of remission from stand-up for decades, but I did it as a career in the comedy boom of the 80s. And that was I was living in Virginia, traveling around the country. I've been to every state except Maine. And that elusive lady we call fame lured me to Hollywood. And I was a bad actor, but I was a great game show host. Where is this going, Jordan? So
I'm holding on.
So I got tapped to host shows. I did a kids show. I did an MTV show. And it was at NBC hosting a children's show where I started really directing. MTV and Comedy Central, I directed stuff like little promos as I was hosting shows, and then just fell in love behind the camera. And in fact, at NBC is where I started doing the promo campaigns for the children's television block of programming. It's like Saved by the Bell promos.
Ah.
And so that was like a bastard cousin of commercials, right? They're 30 seconds, but it's not a real ad.
Yeah.
Jordan, I think were you in New York or LA at this time? Because we probably know a lot of the same people if you were Viacom material. Yeah,
I was in New York.
So Evan Silver, and I could just go down a list of people. Chris Koch, maybe.
Chris Koch for sure.
Yeah.
But I was in LA with Viacom and MTV. New York, I lived there to do an MTV show, and then I did a Comedy Central show when the Comedy Channel and Ha merged, like pre-Comedy Central.
Huh.
Yeah, it was a show Jon Stewart hosted called the Short Attention Span Theater.
Oh, I kind of remember that.
Short Attention Span Theater.
Yeah.
And so I did that for a summer or two, and they would send me out with a box of high 8 tapes and make shitty promos. Can we say bad words?
We can.
Of course.
I mean, we only say bad words, actually.
Gotcha.
So. Right. But yeah, I bet we know. We'll have to connect after this, because I'm sure it would bore the shit out of everybody. But yeah, we probably know a lot of the same people from that family of people.
Much younger than I am.
Don't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the New York hatred in me. Okay.
Keeping you young.
Exactly. Okay.
All right. So obviously, as a director, you work in very close collaboration with producers. And that's what we're all about here, is learning how to be a better producer. So what do you see as being the most important thing the producers you work with contribute to the work that you do?
I'm sure people have said this before, but I just love when the producer, we're talking line producer, not executive producer, right?
Line
because there's
producer.
a difference,
yes,
right?
there is.
There's a huge difference.
When
one of them works and the other one kind of talks.
Yeah, the other one you go, what do you do? I work with some great executive producers. I've been very blessed.
Yes.
Same.
But the line producers that I have worked with have always provided me with solutions. Get it? Like, we used to record the conference call. Now I will ask the creative team, can I record the Zoom when I'm pitching? And usually the pro tip transcribe the conference call. Let a robot or artificial intelligence, for $15 transcribe it. And then you can share that with your team, starting with the line producer. So if we're going to get a crane, the line producer says to me, do you just need it in the morning? Can I let them go? Because if so, we can get a better deal, and then you can afford the aardvark. Because, she knew I wanted an aardvark. If it's like we're going to do it all day, they'll go, okay, well, let's schedule it for all day, and, we'll do something early in the morning while they're building the crane. Another way is to milk the crane analogy is, hey, are there any other shots that you want to get that you weren't thinking about that could be off a crane?
Oh,
Right?
I already love your line producer, whoever they
nice.
are, because
I was told not to say names.
Well, you could.
I won't say Alexis Seeley.
There you go.
I won't say Steve Sills.
There you go. If it's high praise, it's allowed.
Good. Yeah, really wonderful. And also, I think the other thing that I love my stars, I love when I don't know the shenanigans that goes on behind the scenes. I don't love, but I enjoy at the end of the day when they go, oh, you don't even know what happened today. And I was like, great, because I'm looking at the camera, trying to keep the chit-chatters around the camera to stop talking. I'm focused on the performance. I do comedy, mostly comedy dialogue. So I don't care if there was a fight with the neighbor and the caterer.
Right, yeah.
I'll never forget, I had a producer, not my producer, but someone working for a company that I had in the last decade, tell me, he goes, oh, there was so much drama at craft service between so-and-so and so-and-so, and, it just was not cool. And then I had lunch with the director, and he said, oh, and all that drama that went on at the craft service with so-and-so and so-and-so. And I was like, well, how did you know? Well, the producer told me. Of course I want to know what's going on in my set. I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. They should have shielded you from that.
I always ask for consent before. I'm like, do you want to know the drama that just happened? If you don't, fantastic.
No.
I'm happy to save it for then. But, it depends on the director, but I will offer drama if I know that they would be interested in it. Otherwise, I just wait until the end because it's irrelevant and it will only sidetrack your thoughts for the day.
Siddhartha was shielded from pain, poverty, illness when he was in the palace. It was only after he left the palace that he became the Buddha, when he saw pain and suffering and hunger and things like that.
Right.
Dropping a little Siddhartha reference.
That is quite the analogy.
Not really. I didn't have a good ending. I need to work on that one. That's new material.
You're getting there. It's new. It's new.
5.
Workshop that.
Exactly. Well, then this question will go along with what you just said, I believe. But what are some things about being a director that producers often overlook or might not understand? Like, say you're we may revisit this later, but say you're working with somebody for the first time. One of your regular producers happens to be, God forbid, unavailable.
That's a tough one. I will say directors need to understand that people cannot read your mind. The director, she, he, they think that, well, why would you even show me that? Because we don't read your mind. So the onus is on the director to tell her vision to the producer to get them to understand. That's my opinion, right? And I teach that at Commercial Directing Film School. You can learn about it at commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. Slid that in, right?
Ding.
Like
Yeah.
butter.
I need a ding
Seamless.
anytime there's a plug. Ding.
One that happens is, my pet peeve is versions. There's so many pre-pro books, and the agency has a Google Doc, and the scripts change from the client, and the wardrobe wasn't updated. So my whole thing is, keep track of the versions. When I get on set and the script supervisor has the wrong, version of the script,
Yeah.
it may be a word or two, but it's like, we're production. We're supposed to be like almost like the military, buttoned up
On top of that shit.
Yeah. And that hasn't happened to me in ages, but you put me on the spot.
Well, no, I mean, like in Lawrence, I'm just going to keep waxing on this. It is our responsibility to prepare you with all the tools that you have, and you don't. It's as much as you want or as little as you want of agency interaction as well. So we don't have to go through the 50 versions of how it got here, but this is what we've settled on. So here you go. Yeah. I mean, that's lost sometimes. Some directors want to know everything. Some don't. Again, I think it's learning or just having that discussion in the beginning of, sorry, I'm going to go off on a tangent. I, as a producer, will almost interview the director when I work with one for the first time and say, do you normally do your own shot list? Would you like support with that? Do you, if we can't afford, I know, right? Like, and just go down the line of where the director feels like they can have the most support possible and do all the jobs that they want to do, and we'll do the rest.
So back in the day when I started, it was probably post Y2K, and the millennials can Google that. Okay. There was a director, Marcus Nispel.
I fucking knew you were going to say his name. I'm sorry.
And Marcus Nispel, who I interviewed on my podcast, Respect the Process, he was genius. He's a super sweet guy. He brought up his manifesto. Jordan, he's German, right? I don't do the impressions, but he was like, you probably want to ask me about the manifesto because it was a memo. It was a memo. But in hindsight, it was genius. They want to say, like, don't look at Marcus. Marcus likes fresh squeezed orange juice. He only likes hoop earrings on actresses. And I've had so many particularities as a director wanting the pre-pro book to be a certain way. Like, I like it specifically. Like, we can go in the weeds on this, right? Because the audience understands. I like it to go client up top centered, agency underneath, and production company at the bottom. I don't need the big ass production company logo smack dab in the middle of the pre-pro book cover, because the clients don't even know the production company. The clients are like, they know Jordan because he did a call and the agency talked him up and blah, blah, blah. Right? Not that I'm all that, just that's the gig, right? It's a director-driven business. And so when you put the company name up top, it's like, you don't get it. You don't get it. That's not what we're selling here. It's the client and maybe even a sub-brand extension that's important. If we're doing a Pepsi commercial, like a Diet Pepsi commercial, don't put a big Pepsi logo. It's Diet Pepsi, and the brand manager is assigned to our commercial that the agency has been working with for 3 months before they even heard of us, works for Diet Pepsi. So, get that straight. So why Marcus? Because I told my lovely wife, who's a very talented filmmaker, Jeanette Godoy. Learn more, JeanetteGodoy.com. I don't even know what her website is, so I can't plug it. No bell. She goes, why don't you just do the manifesto? I mean, jokingly. But a template to say, I like this, I like that. I even have a special thing that those who work with me know. I have it. I would show you, but I don't want to step away from the mic. I have a special tray with gum, mints, little tooth flossers, a Velcroed trash can to put the little flossers in, and sometimes little mouthwash with cups if they love me, so that everyone can have fresh breath after lunch. Idiosyncrasy? Maybe. It just made its return since COVID killed it about 2 years ago today.
I mean,
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
2 years ago. Oh,
sorry, boys.
What year is it?
So I'm putting the fresh breath tray in the manifesto.
I love it.
It's
That was
very
a long chunk.
thoughtful.
It's very thoughtful. I have a question. In this kind of weird world of commercial filmmaking, there seems to be a little bit of a team. There's a trifecta around you, right? So you're the director. There's the line producer, a first AD, and a DP, director of photography.
Yes.
Right? Do you have a particular style or approach in terms of how they work with you for each of these people? Or are you more, obviously the DP role is a much more of a creative decision.
Mhm.
But is there an approach that you like from these people that make you feel like you're supported and able to do your best work?
That's a great question. I love when the AD and the line producer are in cahoots, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love when they do scheduling. I mean, here's the dirty secret. Jordan Brady doesn't really look at the schedule because,
Why would you?
Yeah.
well, I know. Here's what I look at. I have two rules.
Okay.
Don't start with the wide shot. And that's if I've been unsuccessful talking the agency out of the wide shot altogether in the commercial. We don't
Right.
need the shot of the
Wide
auto parts store.
establishing.
Don't need the wide establishing. Okay. So if it's like, no, the client wants to see their logo on the side of the building. Okay. Don't do it first. It takes too much energy. Everybody gets hung up on the performance in the middle of the script. And I'm a jerk if I don't let the actors do the whole thing. And someone's like, we don't like when she says this. Like, you don't even see her.
You're never going to be on the wide.
Never going to be on the wide. So that's one. I always look like, if we're doing it, don't schedule it first. And this is a gem that I'm about to drop. I do comedy, God willing. Get the funny before lunch. Don't schedule the big funny bit with the performers while the blood is in their tummy soaking up the the whatever they
lamb
ate.
confit.
Yes. The life rice.
Lamb confit. Because they're not as funny. So I look at that. Like I look at the first shot up. If there was a hurricane and we couldn't shoot after lunch, we could run this bit and have a spot.
Oh, that's fucking smart.
So
That
I
is.
love when the AD and the producer know that it's in the manifesto. And I call Lawrence, I call the trifecta the DP, the wardrobe stylist, and the production designer. That's the creative trifecta that, like back in the day, I would have the DP and the production designer and the stylist like step into the pre-pro and hold up the chicken nuggets, which were brown, in front of a light blue shirt. And then a production designer had the wood panel. It's like 3 layers of shit to say, dude, this is why it's not that patterned cowboy Western shirt that you like.
Right.
Because here's the product, here's the background for the background.
I remember when there was money like that.
Yeah.
I remember production managing those types of jobs where you'd have 14 samples from a floor store of linoleum that was never going to be seen. But we had it and we got to pick it and it was great. I remember when, you could take your production designer on location scouts.
Yeah.
Location scout, not the tech scout, but actually just bringing them to every house that you would look at in order to pick the house. Mm-hmm. Boy, those were fun jobs.
And a lot of the DPs that I'm fortunate enough to work with will say, look, if you want me to come to the scout, I'd love to come. I'll just meet you there. I won't charge.
Oh.
That's how they talk.
Because they want to be prepared too.
Marcus said a very good thing at the end of, he goes, no, but he said, he was talking about the olden days versus the new times. And he summed it up by going, sometimes I just wish they would give us the money and walk away to let us make the magic.
Amazing.
Boy, do I have some Marcus stories. I've heard him say something very similar directly to agency before. It may have not been that nice.
Yeah. Now, I've never worked with him. We've just hung out like that. And the idea is right. However, I would counter that the agency being stewards of the brand and often having a lot of on-set experience are a second set of eyes. So there's a balance, I think.
Right.
100%.
Well, so actually that does tie in my next question, Lawrence, if I may. So
Please.
basically, I've had to have discussions with directors, and nobody, I mean, please, if you get butthurt over this, I apologize. I did not mean you. When we're doing commercials or advertising or content grab or whatever it is, it's not your personal project. And we do have somebody that we have to check in with in order, I mean, this is how we get our money and you get your exposure so that we can, you can put this on your reel and all those things. But in the end, it's advertising. So we have a boss that is telling us. It's not like a movie studio or those types. We have a really direct boss. We also have a team of agency people who have been with these ideas and clients for 8 months and have probably workshopped the majority of the questions that you have and have come up with these solutions, right? So I think that a commercial director will best enhance the creative when they understand those things. And I would love to know if you feel that way and what has changed since the heyday of the late 90s and the mid 2000s of, spectacular $1.5 million commercials every other day to now where, we have 30 grand to grab some content with a C300.
Again, another great question.
I feel like I could produce for you, Jordan.
You could be
Please
great.
go on.
It'd be wonderful. Well, you brought up a couple of great points. Once I believe and teach the commercial director is more of a midwife. And a wonderful director, Rachel Harms, said, I'll push back on the midwife and say more like a dressmaker. If the client doesn't like your sleeveless dress because she's not happy with, or he or they is happy with their arms, you'll put sleeves on it because you've signed up for that. And my daddy always told me, he who pays the piper picks the tune. So ce n'est pas tout chef d'oeuvre, as the French would say. It's not your fucking masterpiece. Now, I'm a mercenary. If the script was good and the budget was fine, I would sell vape pens to toddlers.
Same. In fact, I know of a guy.
And so I am a bit, and hopefully my counterparts are, and you've, produced for them and had them on your show. I'm a not just a mercenary for the product and the script and the project, but I'm like obsessive about it. Like when I did Popeye's Chicken, the family never went to KFC. We just didn't because we were that crazy about it. I happened to be this on-air spokesperson for Popeye's Chicken for 3 years in the 2000s while directing the commercials. Yes, I was a man on the street guy. Man on the street. And my Russian bookkeeper would go, "You've got more chicken money. We love this chicken." But then when I did KFC years later, we never went back to Popeyes. We went to KFC. You've got new chicken money.
Just from them, a lot of my career was food commercials, so I totally get you on that one too. And I've done several Popeyes, but I don't think that we ever worked together.
No, we would remember.
Popeye's fried chicken was my first job as a teenager when I was like 14 years old.
Oh, wow.
I buttered biscuits. They're buttered 3 times.
They're really
three
good.
times in the process. Yeah.
Lawrence, fun fact.
Yes.
Not only did I do the radio and the voiceover, but I also did something. It was these little blurbs we would record every quarter that played in the back of the house, in the kitchen.
In store. Oh, interesting.
Hey, it's 20 minutes past the hour. You know what? Check on that grease. Does it need a changing?
Wow.
Do you have any of those samples that we could use?
I have no idea.
Oh,
Please
my
check
God.
all your DAT tapes in your storage unit right now for us.
That is
please.
amazing.
Break out the DAT.
I also do a lot of voiceover work, but I've never had anything that awesome before.
It's beyond industrial.
Beyond industrial. That's super industrial. Okay, I'm really excited about this. We've hinted at it a little bit, but your commercial, and correct me if I'm saying it wrong, commercial directing boot camp, is that the correct name of it?
Yes. Commercial Directing Boot Camp is an in-person quarterly workshop. It's like 8 hours, limited seating. I just did one. I don't know when this drops, but I just did it recently. And I say things in the room that I wouldn't even say on this trusted podcast. And it's industry tips, how to manage a career. And some people are like, the last one, there were 4 veteran filmmakers. There's DPs, there's agency producers and whatnot. And then when the pandemic hit, I kind of cannibalized some of the best, more generic stuff. And I put an online commercial directing masterclass out. So as a student of branding and advertising, I lumped them together under the banner commercialdirectingfilmschool.com.
Got it. There you go.
The boot camp is an in-person, very personal. I watch your work. I know to customize the content for the 15, hopefully 20 again, but COVID filmmakers, and it's very give and take, right? The masterclass is online, so like 2.5 hours of wonderful content. And I have can I tell you about the new one?
Yes, please.
Oh my goodness. I have a new online course that answers the question that I get asked most often as a commercial director. Can I shadow you on set?
Oh,
and the answer is no fucking way.
No fucking way.
Right.
Okay, because I got a client, I got an agency, and the creative director wants to be in a baby Bjorn in front of me. So I had, I carried a 360 camera, like a body cam almost, and I had a behind the scenes team. The agency knew what I was doing. I'm in Video Village. We're plussing the script. I go back to the actors and I'm running the crew, because those are the 3 areas. You got to run the crew, you got to work with the actors, and you interface, collaborate, and elevate with the agency. So I would say most filmmakers know, if they're any good, they know the first 2. They can run the crew, they made a film, they worked in TV, whatever. They're great with actors, but it's that elusive agency interface. So I'm editing that project as we speak. And the freaking hard drive crashed, and I had to pay like some Israeli special unit to rescue the data. It was crazy.
Oh my God.
But that's not interesting for your listeners.
All of it's interesting. But, what we think is interesting, and I was excited when I found you and your podcast and now these courses that you do, is that there's no training program for what we do.
Correct.
Especially as directors and producers. I mean, maybe we can't shadow Jordan Brady, so who are you going to shadow? That for you to be able to put this knowledge together and put it out there is just great. I assume it's been wildly successful.
It has been wildly successful. I've managed to do it with the ebb and flow of, like, knock on wood, being a steadily working director. And there was one time when I had a large chunk coming up and I had to cancel because, it was well enough in advance, like, okay, I have to focus on the job at hand. The big trick is it's not directing and compete. It's very competitive, but it is not a zero-sum game. So if I tell you the things I've learned, a lot of them will help you, and some of them may not be your style, but it doesn't take a job away from me, right? So it only helps people tell better stories faster. Producing, there should be a producer's boot camp, and a lot of people ask me about
there should be.
running their own company.
We're working on it. You
have to have it. You have to do it.
Yeah. And you can whip some fucking people in shape, let me tell you.
And if you have any online component, let's put it on commercialdirectingfilmschool.com.
We love it. Yeah, because, both Christian and I, same kind of thing. I went to film school, didn't learn a lick of this.
Right.
Self-taught. Even if you come up as a coordinator and then a production manager and then a line producer, once you make that switch from production manager to line producer, it's a whole different world. You
got to relearn everything.
You relearn everything, especially coming up at the decades we came up in. There was no sharing of information. There was no network of like, oh, here, try this, or here's a solution. None of that.
We created that ourselves.
We created that ourselves.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. What's the way to transition for someone coming up on set that wants to be a producer? How do they just find a project to produce?
Well, as they say, like, anybody can call themselves a producer.
Yes.
Just so you know.
Yes.
That doesn't mean anything.
There was something I read when I was in film school. I don't remember who it was, and I wish I did, but it was a quote, and it was, "If you want to be a writer, write something. If you want to be a director, direct something. If you want to be a producer, produce something." So take that with a grain of salt, because you're not going to just go out and produce a commercial. But
But Lawrence did.
Oh.
What do you mean?
So Lawrence and I were PMs together. We were working at places like, and I'm going to name names, RSA, Anonymous, all the Marcus Nispels of the
let me
world,
pick that up.
HSI, fucking all of it, right? There you go. I dropped that shit. They're Anonymous. They're still around today, all those people, Radical. So anyway, we were there and we were both PMing and we were sharing some producers. And he turned to me one day and said, I can fucking produce better than this person that we're working for. I'm just going to do it. And the next job he took was producing, and that was it. And I think that you get to that point of, I learned just as much from a horrible producer when I was a PM than from a good producer, because I would see what I didn't want to repeat. I felt how I felt and didn't want to treat anybody this way or make them feel this way. I also saw the mistakes that were being made and thought, I don't have to make that mistake in order to know I don't want to do it. When you find that right team of people, or the people who are willing to nurture you and bring you up, that's the best thing that you can do. Is if we're not passing this along or being the examples for the production teams that are out there now, then what the fuck are we doing? There's enough work to go around. You're not taking jobs or clients from me. I could give a shit. If this director likes you better than me as a producer, fantastic. Have at it, because there'll be somebody else I'm a better match for.
That's
And if we adopted
wonderful
those types of
philosophy.
attitude, well, and it works. Believe me, because people, the other philosophy is, don't want them as much as they want you. But
Yeah.
it is kind of true, right?
Right. And, if I ever connect people or pass on a gig and say, hey, why don't you check out her? Or, oh, I know someone, especially with the film school, I've been able to be a resource for projects that I wouldn't be right for, or I'm busy. And someone will say, well, what do I owe you? I was like, just be good.
To be good.
And
Don't make somebody call me and say, who's this guy you gave me? I'm like, no. Like, my philosophy is to only recommend people who are better than me. That's why Lawrence gets all of my recommends.
Aw, Christian.
And y'all know who else out there. Yeah.
That's a closer.
Maybe others.
But it's true. Like, I don't have to be in the competition of best producer. I know I'm good. So
I'm the most accommodating comedy director in my price range.
Is that your tramp stamp or your bumper sticker?
It's on a mug. Being a little senior and working for, there's some creative teams that are like my kids' age, and which is cool
Now,
because you can mentor them. If it trips you up, that's your problem, right? For me, I love it. And I love helping, and that's its own reward. The teaching and giving back and mentoring is its own reward. I'm also fortunate that I work with my kids.
Really?
Yeah. My son, Jake, edits my podcast.
Ah.
And then my son, Ben, is a cinematographer and up-and-coming director. And then he'll work on the crew, like he was on the crew with the DP Jordan Levy that I work with, that you may know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And they hire him without me being involved if it's someone else's shoot.
That's the perfect compliment. Exactly.
Yeah. So, and my wife is a filmmaker, so like I directed second unit on her film, and my son pulled focus, and Jordan DP'd it. It was, yeah.
Did he load the film?
Brady Industries over there.
Somewhat. Yeah. No, it's really fun. And my daughters are in school. One's an actress, and the other, ironically, studies advertising at UT and wants nothing to do with the business. So we'll see. I mean, they're all super smart kids. Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate.
So you heard it here, producers. Bring the solutions, apparently, is the, right? Bring the solutions.
So, Lawrence, if you were to ask my kids, because they've all helped in some way, even they were little, what's the one thing your dad says about filmmaking? they will by rote say, there's only solutions in filmmaking. Because I don't want any fucking belly aching. Like, if you told me you're going to help me, don't tell me you're meeting the homies in an hour. Because you told me you were helping. There's only solutions, so let's figure this out. This is taking longer than I thought. I mean, I don't get this anymore, but when they were teens.
Right.
Yeah, there's
Taking
only
longer
solutions.
than I thought.
There's only solutions.
I remember being told that I was at Propaganda. Yes, everyone.
Oh, yeah.
I was a coordinator at Propaganda. And
They had a
my
film
PM,
thing.
They fucking did. Satellite films. Yeah. And, I met Pam Thomas was there. There was a lot going on during this, Brian Belichick. So all of that was, to say that I was told, my PM turned to me in a very mean and nasty way, said, all I hear are problems. I need for you to tell me solutions. But in the moment, and crying in the bathroom and coming back, I realized that I will only ever fucking show up with solutions now. It was almost a dare. And I feel like I learned it because it was in the situation I was in. But expressing that in a way that people understand it is how I try to find working with people. Like, you either praise them because they've come with a solution, or you yell at them because they haven't, or whatever the thing is for that particular individual, teaching them that to critical thinking and to at least take a stab at solving it so that we can discuss it would be the way to go.
A lot of people, directors and producers, will lead their producerial team or the crew by either dangling the carrot or hitting them with the stick. I like to hit them with the carrot.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank
And
you.
you can see better afterwards.
Is that new material?
That's
also?
new material. New
That's
material.
New one. Okay.
Yeah, for the producer's happy hour.
Tight five. Got your tight five going.
Jordan, thank you so much for having a drink with us today.
Of course.
And
Thank
sharing
you.
some of your director knowledge about what it means to be a good producer. What's the best way for people, A, to find you and listen to Respect the Process and find out more about your film school?
Respect the Process is a filmmaking podcast focused on making commercials. And I would love to have the two of you on. Or if you can share this, we'll call it a simulpod.
Hey, how about that? Love it.
So think about that.
Okay,
right?
we shall.
I would just do an intro and we can run this because I think people would learn. And it's everywhere you pod. I was going to pull it from Spotify in solidarity with Neil Young and whoever else. And I thought, I don't want to piss off those 12 listeners. So it's everywhere.
One of them could be that client. You don't know.
You have 12? Oh, shit. How do we get there?
JordanBrady.com has everything. And then commercialdirectingfilmschool.com. Commercialdirectingfilmschool.com has links to the masterclass, to the boot camp. And if I may,
Please.
September 30th through October 2nd, our first ever filmmaker retreat in Joshua Tree. Where the theme is define your voice so that you can really hone in on what it is you want to do as a filmmaker, specifically, in advertising. So hopefully it's transformational.
In Joshua Tree, it better be. I have a house in Joshua Tree, so I split my time between LA and Joshua Tree, and it's just one of my most favorite spots in the world. It's lovely out there.
I'm so envious.
Yeah, maybe I'll be around when you're out there, and we can have a drink.
Come over Howl at the Moon with us.
Absolutely.
Oh, fuck yeah. Well, Lawrence, how do people get a hold of you if they want you?
Me, little old me, two ways. voiceoflawrence.com for my voiceover work and lawrencetLewis.com for everything else, including the Joshua Tree Retreat. Sister, how about you?
SisterChristianProduces.com. Y'all know.
See ya.
Producers Happy Hour was brought to you with the help of Christopher Daniels,
who is a design and branding specialist, and Eric Beals,
who is our podcast editing wizard.
Thanks for listening, and remember,
enjoy Happy Hour when you can.
Because making shit is hard.
What are you going to do?